She's still not back, probably lost in the swamp. No one said anything more. They withdrew, believing she'd gotten turned around. But when the squad got ambushed, before enemy gunfire could even begin, one shot cut through the air, precise, clean. Then the radio crackled. "Target neutralized, I'm still here." Sophia Keller, 33 years old, Swedish fair skin, brown hair tied low, slender build, ash-gray eyes, former elite marksman, now serving as support scout due to incompatible team dynamics. In the unit, she spoke little, always walked behind the formation. No one bonded with her. A soldier once whispered, "She shoots well, but it's like she doesn't exist." During training exercises at Rigel Marsh, the group had 11 people. After the coordination drill, the entire squad withdrew. No one realized she was missing. Back at base, an officer said, "Maybe she took a different route or self-extracted. Wait until morning if she doesn't show. Report her missing." The morning mist hung thick over Rigel Marsh as Bravo Squad completed their reconnaissance training. 11 soldiers had entered the wetlands at dawn, practicing coordinated movement through difficult terrain. Now, as evening approached, 10 soldiers emerged from the tree line.
"Sound off for head count," Sergeant Williams called out, clipboard in hand. "Martinez here. Thompson present. Johnson checking in." The roll call continued down the line, each soldier confirming their presence. But in the organized chaos of equipment checks and debriefing preparations, no one noticed that one voice never responded. Sophia Keller had been assigned to rear security, her usual position. In a unit where social bonds determined everything from meal partners to mission assignments, she'd learned to make herself useful rather than visible. She carried extra ammunition, maintained the communication equipment, and never complained about getting the least desirable tasks. "Pack it up, we're moving out," Williams announced. "Good work today, everyone. Clean weapons and gear checks in 30 minutes. The squad began their march back to base camp, tired soldiers focused on hot meals and dry socks. Conversations drifted between weekend plans and complaints about the swamp's persistent humidity. No one looked back to verify that all 11 team members were present. Back at base, Sergeant Williams submitted his training report without conducting a final head count. It wasn't until evening chow that anyone realized Sophia wasn't in the mess hall. "Anyone seen Keller?" asked Private Rodriguez, looking around the dining area. A few shrugs, some uncertain looks. "Probably eating somewhere else," suggested Corporal Davis. "She doesn't usually sit with us anyway." It wasn't until morning formation that her absence became official. When Sophia failed to appear for roll call, the administrative response was frustratingly casual. "She might have taken an alternate extraction route," Lieutenant Hayes suggested during the officer briefing, "or decided to extend the exercise independently." "Should we initiate search protocols?" asked Sergeant Williams, feeling the first stirrings of responsibility. "Give it another day," Hayes replied. "Keller's always been independent. If she's not back by tomorrow, we'll file a missing person report." "I wasn't lost. I was just following the path the team forgot to check. I heard them withdraw, and I heard something else. Metallic sounds coming from the direction no one was watching." During that time, back at base, a communications technician scanning radio systems detected an unusual ping pattern coming from deep within the reed beds. But since Sophia wasn't carrying the new encrypted equipment, they couldn't confirm it was her. Someone in the group wondered, what if she stayed behind on purpose to observe? The response was laughter. "Her? Observe what? She's called dead weight for a reason." However, a SEAL sergeant who knew Sophia quietly said, "Shadow One never gets lost. If she didn't come back, it means she's still on mission." The communications bunker at base camp hummed with electronic chatter throughout the night. Technical Sergeant Morgan monitored multiple frequencies while reviewing the day's training data. Most signals were routine: radio checks, equipment tests, standard administrative traffic. But one signal pattern caught his attention. "Hey, Lieutenant, Morgan called to the duty officer. "I'm picking up intermittent pings from grid reference 77 Alpha. That's deep in the marsh where Bravo Squad was training." Lieutenant Hayes walked over to examine the readout. "Could be equipment malfunction or wildlife interfering with the sensors." "Maybe," Morgan replied, adjusting his headset, "but the pattern's too regular for environmental interference, and too precise for random equipment failure." The pings occurred every 47 minutes, lasting exactly 8 seconds each time. Someone with military training would recognize it as a passive monitoring protocol, a way to maintain communication contact without revealing position or intent. "Problem is, we can't verify the source," Morgan continued. "Whoever's transmitting isn't using current encryption. Could be old equipment or someone operating off protocol." Word of the mysterious signals spread through base camp's informal communication network. Soldiers discussed possibilities over meals and during equipment maintenance. Most assumed it was technical error or training equipment left behind in the marsh, but a few veterans had different theories. "Sophia Keller doesn't lose equipment," observed Master Sergeant Peterson, who'd served with her during previous deployments. "If signals are coming from her last known position, she's there for a reason." Peterson remembered Sophia from their time in Afghanistan. While other soldiers complained about patrol assignments or living conditions, she'd focused entirely on mission effectiveness. She'd map patrol routes with obsessive detail, memorize terrain features that others overlooked, and maintain equipment with precision that bordered on compulsive. "You're talking about someone who once spent 3 days in Overwatch position because she detected movement patterns that didn't match local civilian activity," Peterson told anyone who'd listen. "Turned out she was right. Enemy spotters were conducting reconnaissance for an attack that never came because she reported their positions. But Sophia's reputation in Bravo Squad was different. Here, her methodical approach was seen as antisocial behavior. Her attention to detail was interpreted as obsessive-compulsive disorder. Her preference for independent operation was labeled as inability to function in team environments. She's probably wandering around in circles," joked Private Martinez during evening formation. "Or maybe she found a dry spot and decided to camp out until someone comes looking." The laughter that followed felt forced, masking growing uncertainty about Sophia's actual status. Technical Sergeant Morgan continued monitoring the signal pattern throughout the night. By dawn, he'd recorded 17 transmission cycles, each one originating from the same grid coordinates. But without proper encryption keys, he couldn't decode the content or verify the source. "If it's Keller out there," he told Lieutenant Hayes during morning briefing, "she's not trying to contact us for extraction. These signals look like surveillance reports." The implication hung in the air between them. Sophia wasn't lost or confused. She was conducting active reconnaissance from a position the rest of her squad had abandoned. "I know they're not alone. I'm waiting. I can't call for backup. But if I shoot the right person first, the rest won't have time to return fire." 18 hours later, the main squad fell into an ambush at the eastern edge of the marsh. The formation was caught in crossfire from 3 directions. No one had seen them coming. Just as the commander was about to shout, "Spread out," a bullet from the northwest tore through the enemy sniper's head. The entire squad used that moment to scatter, close distance, and reverse the situation. When the gunfire died down, one of the soldiers heard a radio transmission. "Target neutralized. Escape route open. Shadow 1. Still here." Everyone fell silent. An officer whispered, "Shadow 1 was the old call sign of a special operations marksman believed to have left active duty after the Schnee operation 5 years ago." Sophia emerged from the fog, face cold, no visible wounds. The commander asked, "You stayed behind intentionally?" She just nodded. "If I had withdrawn with you, we wouldn't all be going home today." Dawn broke gray and humid over Rigel Marsh as Bravo Squad began their return patrol. The training exercise was officially complete, but Lieutenant Hayes had decided to conduct one final reconnaissance sweep before declaring the area clear. They'd been moving through the wetlands for 90 minutes when Private Rodriguez spotted the first sign of trouble. Movement, 2 o'clock. He whispered into his throat mic. Multiple contacts, approximately 400 meters. Sergeant Williams raised his binoculars, scanning the tree line. I don't see anything. They're there, Rodriguez insisted. Caught a reflection off what looked like optical equipment. The squad froze, every soldier straining to identify threats in the maze of reeds and standing water. But the marsh had returned to its normal sounds. Birds calling, water lapping, wind rustling through vegetation. Could be local hunters, suggested Corporal Davis. This area isn't restricted to military use. Williams wasn't convinced. Something felt wrong about the silence, the way wildlife sounds had changed pattern. In 20 years of military service, he'd learned to trust instincts that couldn't be explained logically. All positions. Prepare for contact, he transmitted quietly. But even as he spoke, Williams realized they were already too late. Muzzle flashes erupted from 3 separate positions, forming a perfect triangle around Bravo Squad's location. The enemy had positioned themselves with tactical precision, creating a kill zone with no viable escape routes. Williams opened his mouth to shout the standard response, "Spread out! Return fire!" But the words never came. A single rifle shot cracked across the marsh from an impossible angle. Northwest, from terrain that should have been empty. The enemy sniper who'd been directing the ambush jerked backward, his rifle tumbling into the marsh as he collapsed. The precisely coordinated attack dissolved into chaos. Without their primary marksman, the ambushing force lost their tactical advantage. Bravo Squad used those crucial seconds to break from their exposed position, seeking cover among the reed beds. "Contact northwest," Williams shouted. "Friendly fire from unknown position." The firefight lasted less than 4 minutes. Deprived of their overwatch element, the enemy force found themselves outmaneuvered by soldiers who knew the terrain intimately. When the shooting stopped, 3 enemy combatants lay dead and 2 others had fled deeper into the marsh. As squad members conducted after-action procedures, checking for casualties and securing the area, Private Rodriguez's radio crackled with an incoming transmission. "Bravo Squad, this is Shadow 1. Target neutralized. Escape route secured. Still maintaining overwatch." The voice was calm, professional, and unmistakably female. Williams felt his blood turn cold. Shadow 1 wasn't a call sign from current operations. It belonged to someone who'd been declared inactive years ago. "Shadow 1, he transmitted carefully. "Identify yourself and provide authentication." The response came immediately. Authentication, Schnee 77 Alpha. Primary objective accomplished. Secondary surveillance continuing. Master Sergeant Peterson, monitoring communications from base camp, nearly dropped his headset. Schnee 77A was classified authentication from a black operations mission conducted 5 years earlier. Only 3 people had survived that operation, and 2 of them were confirmed KIA. Through the morning mist, a figure emerged from the northwest tree line. Sophia Keller walked toward them with the measured pace of someone who'd been watching and waiting for exactly this moment. Her face showed no emotion, no sign of stress or fatigue. She carried her rifle with the casual confidence of someone who'd never missed a shot that mattered. "You stayed behind deliberately," Williams said. It wasn't a question. Sophia nodded once. "If I'd extracted with the squad yesterday, half of you wouldn't be going home today. If you've ever been saved at exactly the right moment without being able to say thank you, type, 'I owe a debt.'" After that engagement, Sophia still didn't speak up. But the technical team added a new symbol to the training maps, a red dot with the inscription, "Shadow 1 firing position." From then on, during every exercise, one section of the reed forest became known as Sophia's Corner. A soldier wrote by hand and posted in the weapons room, "If she's not present, don't assume you've checked everything." The transformation in Bravo Squad's operations was immediate and profound. What had started as a routine training exercise had become a lesson in tactical awareness that no classroom could have provided. Lieutenant Hayes initiated immediate changes to standard operating procedures. From now on, we maintain positive accountability for all personnel during every phase of operations, he announced. Head counts at beginning, middle, and end of every movement. But the changes went deeper than administrative protocol. Sergeant Williams began studying the topographical maps of Rigel Marsh with obsessive detail. How had Sophia identified the ambush position that his entire squad had missed? What had she seen that trained soldiers with years of experience had overlooked? She wasn't just lost in the marsh, he told the squad during their next briefing. She was conducting independent reconnaissance of an area we'd marked as secure. While we were focused on completing the exercise, she was identifying actual threats. Technical Sergeant Morgan printed out the signal intercepts from Sophia's 18-hour surveillance period. When decoded using legacy encryption protocols, they revealed detailed enemy movement reports, position updates, and tactical assessments that painted a picture of sophisticated enemy reconnaissance. She wasn't trying to get our attention, Morgan explained to anyone who'd listen. She was building an intelligence picture while maintaining communication security. Every transmission was timed to avoid detection while providing actionable information. The red dot marking Sophia's firing position became an unofficial shrine to situational awareness. During subsequent training exercises, squad leaders would point to that location while explaining Overwatch principles and defensive positioning. Keller didn't just save our lives, observed Master Sergeant Peterson during a visit from higher command. She demonstrated what individual initiative looks like when it's applied correctly. But perhaps the most significant change was in how the squad viewed Sophia herself. The woman they'd dismissed as antisocial and difficult was revealed to be someone who understood mission priorities better than anyone else. She knew something was wrong when the rest of us were ready to go home, Private Rodriguez told his replacement. She stayed behind because she understood that completing the exercise safely meant more than just following the planned timeline. Sophia never sought credit for her actions. She continued to walk at the rear of formations, continued to speak only when necessary, continued to focus on equipment maintenance and mission preparation. But no one questioned her judgment anymore. Type, I will live with honor. If you believe there are people who stay quiet, but keep the whole team alive. Sophia was once left behind, not because of her mistake, but because of human habit, forgetting someone who stays quiet. She didn't argue, didn't speak up. She just stayed, because she heard something the whole team missed. She knew, if she turned her back, someone would fall behind. And the very moment of being abandoned gave her the chance to prove. People might forget you, but you must never forget your mission. The mathematics of abandonment aren't taught in military manuals. They're learned in moments when human oversight meets tactical reality, when assumptions about team cohesion collide with the consequences of incomplete accountability. Every morning when I check my equipment, I'm not just preparing for planned operations. I'm preparing for the mission nobody anticipated, the threat nobody detected, the moment when someone's life depends on decisions made by the person everyone forgot. They called me dead weight because I didn't contribute to social cohesion. What they didn't understand is that social bonds can create blind spots. When everyone thinks alike, moves alike, makes assumptions alike, the outlier perspective becomes the most valuable asset. I don't need to be included in conversations or invited to team meals. I need to maintain situational awareness that extends beyond the immediate mission parameters. I need to watch for threats that others consider unlikely or impossible. The 18 hours I spent in that marsh weren't about proving my worth or seeking recognition. They were about completing reconnaissance that our team hadn't considered necessary, about identifying enemy activity that didn't match our intelligence assessments. People ask me why I didn't call for extraction when I realized the squad had left without me. The answer is simple. Extraction would have meant abandoning the surveillance position that ultimately saved their lives. I've learned something important about being forgotten. It's not always a mistake. Sometimes it's an opportunity. When no one expects you to be somewhere, you can observe without being observed. When no one counts on your presence, your absence becomes tactically valuable. Being left behind taught me that individual initiative matters more than team integration. That mission accomplishment sometimes requires accepting social isolation. That the person who stays quiet might be the one listening most carefully. The shot I took that morning wasn't just about eliminating a threat. It was about proving that forgotten doesn't mean gone, that quiet doesn't mean inactive, that the person walking at the back of the formation might be the one watching everyone's back. Sometimes the bullet fired last is the one that saves everyone else's life. If you believe in stories that touch the heart like this, please leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe to NL Touching Stories. We tell stories that shouldn't be forgotten, because sometimes the shot fired latest is the shot that saves everyone's life. Real people are creating and telling stories, not mass-produced AI.